Let's talk for a second, James, about the licensing percentages. Such a small percentage of people get licensed after they sign an AMA or associate agreement. Why? I think it's less than 7% now.
Sure.
Why is it so low?
It's a filter. Everybody's excited. Everyone can get excited. Everybody can get fired up. It's like if we all say, hey, we're all going to go run a marathon, next month. And you say, hey, is everybody in? You go, yeah, all right. But when it comes time to run the marathon, you're like, I maybe shot my mouth off a little too much. I don't think I'm going to go. And there's countless, examples or countless analogies I could give of somebody saying, I'm on fire, and then really realizing how much work it's going to take to get that done.
It's just such a small percentage.
Yes, but if you look at the percentages of people really making things happen in their life, out of 100 people who say they want to go out and do something big, only about 5% of them are actually going to do it.
True.
I forget the study, but it was in the Secrets, not Secrets of Millionaire Mind. Earl Nightingale wrote the book. I can't remember the name of the book.
Strangest Secret.
Thank you very much. Strangest Secret. But he talked about Harvard University did a study, and that study basically said, why is it out of 100 people that only 5 of them are actually living their dreams and goals when the other 95% are not doing what they said they wanted to do? And it boils down to just a matter of your willpower and mental toughness and making things happen. So in my opinion, you can raise those levels of licensing if you right out of the gates tell people this is what it's going to take. See, my licensing ratio is a lot higher than that. My personal and my organization, it's almost triple that. We're almost getting 20% of our guys licensed. And so again, 2 out of 10. And that's the 80-20 rule, and I think most things in life can be applied to the 80-20 rule. 80% of the people or 20% of the people can do 80% of the work. And so the licensing being so low, it is also a product of people getting really excited, but not really knowing what they're getting into. And I think if you tell people what they're getting into, I'm a big proponent of letting people know what's going to happen next.
Is that why yours are triple the
I think
national rate?
I think so. Because I tell people right out of the gates, look, this is what you've got to do. You got to go here, you got to do this, you got to do this. And I can see it in their face if they don't want to do it. And if they don't want to do it, there's no sense in getting involved in the business because you can't really make any money if you're not going to get licensed. So I'm wasting your time, your money, and that's where we maybe get some of those bad reviews, by the way, is somebody who is convinced to get started because they think, oh, this is going to be great, but they're really not prepared for what's about to hit them. When they find out what hits them, and they say, well, it's not for me, and they leave, sometimes they're a little disgruntled, a little frustrated because, hey, I wish you would have told me that up front. But for me, I think if you tell people up front, you can avoid a lot of those problems. And you can increase your licensing ratio, that's for sure.
What about the people that go to a meeting and they hear some of the chanting that some of the WFG teams do, or sometimes in the training meetings, as you know, they'll wear the team colors and that type of thing, and people come back and they read on the internet, they say, well, WFG is a cult. I mean, this is like a cult. How do you respond to those people?
I think that's hilarious, man, when people say stuff like that, because when do you feel you're most excited? How would you feel if you went to a football game and you sat in a stadium in Cowboy Stadium and everyone was silent and no one was making any noises and there was no jerseys on anybody and just ho-hum, oh, this is amazing, this is so fun. I mean, the excitement and energy, comes from changing your physiology all the time. I mean, the military does it as well. When we run, we sing cadences. When people are down or people are frustrated, you use song or you said chanting, but I mean, just a battle cry or something, that gets people moving.
And why do they do that in the military when you guys run? Well, what is it about that?
It's a motivation. It's esprit de corps is what it is. And what it is just saying, hey, look, when times stink, when this is no fun, we're running 6 or 7 miles, unless you like running, which almost no one does. Yeah. It's not a lot of fun. But you got to do it, and so you got to embrace that. And how do you get through it? Well, let's get a little cheer going, right? And that's really what it is let's get some cheering going.
So it's a motivational.
It's a motivational deal, right?
Okay.
And so we do that here a lot in our organization. And the other thing too is we're in an industry where if you look at it's not my father's financial services industry anymore. This isn't 70-year-old gray white guys doing this business anymore. You've got millennials, you've got women, you've got Asian, you've got African American, you have Hispanics, you have all walks of life in this industry now. And when you got to motivate all those types of people, there's one thing they all have in common. They all have in common that they get fired up when they see something that touches their heart. And they get excited when they hear things, or someone motivates them, or the speech or the cadence of the speech is different. And you're clapping or excitement. When you hear that, it's like being at a sporting event. And we try to create that environment and that atmosphere of an event. And I think that's important because, again, we're in an industry where you're talking about numbers. You're talking about things that are not too terribly exciting. Insurance, for example. I don't think anybody's at an insurance convention unless you come to ours, right, where they're screaming and hollering and up on their chairs yelling. But really what it is, it's people excited about life. It's people excited about life. When you read those things on the internet about someone saying, "Oh, well, I went there and they were clapping and they were, it felt like a cult." Well, yeah, these people are fired up about their life. They're not in a rut. They're excited about the future, where they're going. When people are excited, think about yourself. Whenever you've been excited, you've been more upbeat. You've walked faster. You've talked faster. You've maybe even sung or whistled a tune, or gotten, when something happens, you're up on the chair. Yeah, you're doing something. And I think that's human. I think that's at the core of what we're doing. We're just basically bringing back some human emotions that I think were taboo over the last 20 years. You're in corporate America, quote unquote. You're not supposed to show emotion. You're supposed to sit there like a robot. Don't make any noise. Don't do anything. Don't wear all the same shirts or T-shirts or whatever.
The old saying is that we work with big corporations every day.
Yeah.
The old saying is in corporate America is, I don't know if you've heard this: bring your head to work, leave your heart at home.
Yeah, I've never heard that. But that's true,
that's
right?
That's a very universal saying in big corporate. Yeah,
and
it's kind of sad.
Yeah, it's totally sad because the heart is what it's what we're going for. That's what we're trying to build. We're trying to build something where we're different by design. We're trying to revolutionize an industry. We're trying to shake up an old industry where it didn't have heart before. So we're using stay-at-home moms. We're using truck drivers and teachers. And they're getting involved in our business, and they're getting licenses, and they're changing their life and other people's lives in the process. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with getting fired up and getting excited and whatever it may be, standing on a chair and high-fiving people. You go to any type of Tony Robbins event, that's all he ever talks about is your state of being, getting yourself into a peak state. Because when you're in a peak state, you perform at a higher level. athletes, church leaders, military leaders, politicians, they all know this. Why do you think that people stand up and rally at whatever rally you go to, political rally you go to, and they have banners and bells and all wearing hats and shirts? Why? It's a state of being. And when you raise your state of being, you operate more effectively. That's a scientifically proven fact. And athletes know it, and they've been doing it for years. You've got to change that state, and you've got to get right back into where you need to be to win or to get a competitive edge. And so we feel that we can transfer that to business. And that may seem taboo right now, but I tell you, it's going to catch on. And I tell you that a lot of companies, if you look around, not the old corporate America companies anymore, but newer companies like Google, Apple, their culture is like our culture of excitement, of enthusiasm, same colored T-shirts, clapping, yelling, throwing out candy. That's the culture. And look how successful they are. And I believe we're on the same track.
What about people that say, well, I went to a WFG meeting, a BPM, as you guys call them, business presentation meeting, and it was a hard sell. They were really pushing me to sign an AMA agreement and pay the $100. I really felt like I was being hard sold. How do you address those people?
Well, I'm sure that happens. Again, everybody's got their own individual office, so I would be naive to think that doesn't happen, and I would be dishonest to tell you that it doesn't. I'm sure that does, but it's condemning the organization for the way someone's running it. It would be almost like you went to McDonald's and the bathroom wasn't very clean, or you got the wrong order and you said, "Hey, McDonald's stinks. I'm never coming to any McDonald's ever again." But you may go to a McDonald's down the street from your house that's totally clean, that people are really nice, they get your order right every time. So when you think about that, you can't condemn an entire organization or an entire movement basically on one experience. I would say if that was your experience, go to another office, try a different office, go to a different person. If you really think this industry might be for you, but if you thought you were getting the hard sell, you probably were. But there's nothing we can do about that in the sense that people are who they are. And so the unique thing is we still live in America, and you don't have to hitch your wagon to that guy if his wagon's not going where you want your wagon to go. right? So if you're there and you think the industry might be for you, but you feel the vibe, I wouldn't condemn the organization because the vibe you're feeling is not what you want to feel. Go find the vibe that you want to feel, right? And for me and my organization, we don't do that. I always joke right in the beginning of the meeting, I've got snacks in there and sodas and water and everything. I say, look, the doors aren't locked. At any time, if you feel you want to leave, knock yourself out. We're here to tell you a little more about who we are and what we're doing. If you're interested, great. If you're not interested, that's fine too. But over the course of the next 45 minutes to an hour, hopefully I'll give you some good financial concepts and you get an opportunity to learn more about our company. Worst case scenario, you got some free chips and some free soda, right?
Free chips, can't beat that,
exactly, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I joke and tell people that, but I think it puts them at ease right away. My sales style is very different than the typical American salesman. My sales style is very laid back. I just believe in treating people the right way, and I don't use, people say, well, what are your sales techniques? There aren't any. I just tell people the honest truth and lay it out there, and if they want to do it, they want to do it. If they don't, I don't twist their arm. I mean, it's too easy to make money the right way and the honest way. And plus, if I do that, I'm going to have a problem later on down the road anyway. I force them into doing something they didn't really want to do. And I learned a long time ago, probably as you have, when I got married, if you try to force somebody to do something they don't want to do,
not a good idea.
It doesn't work out well, especially it doesn't work out for me.
Sure. How would you describe WFG's unique culture?
Family comes to mind. Right out of the gates, the first word that comes to mind is family. When my mom died, Joe, the president of our organization, Joe DePaula, called me and apologized and said, hey, I'm so sorry that happened to you, or wished me condolences. Not apologize, but it said, I'm so sorry that happened to you. My thoughts and prayers are with you. Is there anything we can do for you? Sent a card.
Wow.
We have 70,000 licensed agents.
Yeah.
And the president of our company calls me.
It's impressive.
That's insane. If I worked at Caterpillar, that ain't happening.
Right.
If I worked at Amazon, that's not happening. But that was immediately, that's what I think of as family. Our culture is, in corporate America, they say, don't get to know your people because you might have to fire them. Don't get involved in their families' lives. Well, I learned a long time ago, if you really want to build something lasting, then you need to get in their families' lives. You need to find out who their kids are, what their kids' names are, what sports they play, how did you get married to your spouse? How did you guys meet? What do you love? Where do you like to travel? And you become friends. And our culture is such that, we're friends with each other. We're trying to build a life. We're not trying to make a living. We're trying to build a life. And when you're trying to make a living, you do things very differently than when you're trying to build a life. And so our culture is second to none, in my opinion. I absolutely love what we've built. And by the way, if you want to change a little thing or create a little subculture wherever you're at, you're welcome to do that. And some people do, and their culture is a little more competitive. Their culture is a little more oriented towards the sales aspect or whatever. But I've loved the culture of family. And the tagline that I came in with, "No Family Left Behind," was the reason I started this business and the reason I came on board. And I've stuck with that. And I feel that, for a huge corporation and as big as we are, I feel that we maintain that small town family feel where we see everybody and we're happy to see everybody. And it's a fun environment to be a part of, for sure.
What's the biggest obstacle you've had in building WFG?
Two. There are two big obstacles. Number one is my own abilities. I overestimated my own abilities a couple times.
Haven't we all, right?
Yes. A couple times in my career where you just think, man, I got this going on. I know what I'm doing. I can get this done. And when that happens to you, God has a way of humbling you. And they say, whoa, step back, my man. You don't have everything that you think you have here. So that was a big stumbling block for me because I wouldn't say that I'm a cocky person by any stretch of the means, but I have a high level of confidence. And I'm not arrogant or I don't have an ego, but it's close to, it's on the line. And so, but I think any good athlete or anybody who's ever done anything big in life's got some of that.
Sure.
But what happens there is when you have that type of overestimate, your own abilities, you don't utilize the people that you work with in appropriate fashions, and they don't grow, and you're not building leaders, and you're not. The military used to say, if you have one, you have none. If you got two, you got one. And so, here, if it's all personality driven, which what it was for me was, it was all based on me. I wasn't developing leaders where if I was removed from the situation, the leader could take over. And so, that's one of the unique things if you think about on the battlefield. And I keep going back to this because of my military background. But I think you'll find this interesting. In other cultures, we know that if we go to war with another country, 9 times out of 10, if we can take out the officers, they're done, right? They're finished. They'll give up. They'll scatter. They'll surrender. They'll just give up altogether. But the hard part in America, the reason why we're hard to defeat, is if you take out an officer, it doesn't matter. Someone's going to step up right in their place. You're going to have to take out, all 30 of those people because everybody's going to step up into leadership, and that's the way our armed forces are built.
Other countries don't do that with their armed forces?
They don't.
Why not?
They don't have an effective machine like we do, I guess. I don't know. But, I guess I do know the answer, to tell you the truth. A lot of the other countries, the officers are built on hierarchy in the sense of like their family were wealthy. Oh, okay. So you're an officer. You had some pull.
It wasn't earned.
Politically. It was not earned.
Okay.
So we're a layman's army, so to speak. Everybody comes in at the same spot. We all go through basic training. We all go through whatever, and we all go up through the ranks the same way. Similar to what's going on in WFG. That's why I draw that parallel. Is I wasn't adhering to my own principles in the Army, and I was overestimating my own abilities. But the second thing that is a big stumbling block is you've got to learn some skills. You've got to get outside your box. And if you're not willing to change and willing to make yourself better and go on this personal development journey, you're never going to win here. You're never going to win in anything in life, but certainly you're not going to win here. And that's hard. That's difficult to do a self-assessment and say, I'm not very good at this. Or, I probably need to stop doing this, or I need to make this happen in my life, or I need to make this change. Or maybe I'm a jerk. Maybe I'm not nice to people. That's very difficult to do, to change yourself. And in order to win here, you've got to be constantly willing to take on change and live outside the box. And once you learn how to live outside the box and be comfortable being uncomfortable, then that's when the real progress and the real, everything starts to start for you. The success starts to come into play. But those were 2 major issues for me. Once I got both of those 2 things out of the way, where I became comfortable living outside the box, and I became a ferocious personal development person. Like if you said to me right now, hey, James, you know what your problem is? I would genuinely take that and say, yes, what is it? Please let me know. Because I know you have my best interest at heart. And I know that you want me to be better. So why in the world would I not listen to what you're saying? So when I took down the walls and the shields there, I got better. And then when I stopped overestimating myself and just said, I need to develop other leaders, and I need to stop doing things all on my own, the business got a lot more fun and a lot more successful.
What was your emotional low point in the business?
Well, like many entrepreneurs, I had signed a lease bigger than what I thought that I needed, but I was excited and I wanted to grow. And a couple guys said, "Well, I'll be in on it with you," because we couldn't cover it,
Know that story?
And, yeah, exactly. We couldn't cover it, and so we'll be on it with you. And 6 months down the road, they quit. And I'm left holding the bag. And I'm only making $8,000, $9,000 a month, which is a lot of money. But when you've got a staff, and you've got a $5,000 or $6,000 office rent, well, how are we going to eat? Right. What are we going to do? And my wife, she's always been a massive supporter of me and always been there for me. But that was the first time, she went through a grocery store and went to check out, and none of the cards would work. We were maxed out. We had maxed out all of our debt. There was nothing in the account. I had no money coming in. And we were stuck with these bills, and it seemed like the world was kind of crashing in on me. And I have a saying that says, when you're going through hell, don't slow down. And so I'm not gonna stay, sit around and look around and say, oh, this is nice, this is hell. Okay, great. I'm gonna try to get out of there as fast as possible.
Sure.
And the only way forward was just to step up, start getting more activity and moving in the directions of my goals. There's the buffalo the animal buffalo. When there are storms out on the plains, they run towards the storm, whereas other animals will run and hide. They run towards the storm, and the reason they do that is as the storm is passing, the buffalo's running, and so they're getting through the storm faster. So they cut the storm in half. And so yeah, it's pretty crazy.
It is.
So for me, I just decided that was a really low point. We had no money. My wife, her support was souring in a sense. Not that she didn't support me or love me, but hey, look, we have a baby, we got to pay bills.
Sure.
These guys had left me holding the bag, and they told me they were my buddies, and they were in it to win it, and we were going to make it happen, and there was a little bit of a a sense of betrayal.
Your name's on the lease, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm the only one on the lease.
Yeah.
So a little sense of betrayal, as far as that's concerned as well. And then you just feel like overwhelmed, and you think, wow, man, can I really do this? And then the self-doubt starts to creep in, and then doubt, works itself into, questioning, should I do this or should I not do this? And then those two crystallize and become fear. And then, then you're paralyzed. And I was, for a short period of time paralyzed. And so I reached out to a mentor, and he said, well, I've had this happen to me too. And as I've come to realize, a lot of entrepreneurs, as I mentioned to you, you said, oh, sure. We've been there. Yeah. A lot of entrepreneurs have been there. And it's that point in time where I told you a minute ago, where you build that rock, I drew down, and then I said, well, what's the worst case scenario? We got to give up this office. I got to go back to working out of my home. I got to make it happen. Nobody's dead. Nobody died. Everybody's still here. I'm going to put food on the table. We'll still have a roof over our heads. So when I realized that the worst case scenario, the absolute worst case, was someone passing away versus this is minuscule. This is no big deal. They left me holding a bag. And somebody told me one time, Jack Linder's wife, Linda, she said, if you have a problem that money can solve, then you don't have a problem. And I realized that those problems that I have, buying groceries, paying the rent, those are money problems. Well, I've got a license. I can go out and build a business as big or as small as I want. And so I could change the way I did business, and I could go out and make money, and I could solve those problems. So I didn't have a problem if money could solve it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I want to ask you another question about your rock analogy, where you said, you kind of formed that rock, so to speak.
Sure.
Then you call on that I've been here before type of thing. Mm-hmm. Do you train your people to purposely target military people, sports people that by trade or by association have sort of built that?
Absolutely. So for me, and I tell people, look, you can never measure the heart of a human being. Right, we've got that established, and everybody's got to get an opportunity and an example of success shown to them. But if you're looking to build an organization, I'm looking for athletes. I'm looking for military people, because I know they have suffered defeat. I know they've had quiet desperation moments where they're at home crying their eyes out, not in front of people, or maybe even in front of people, because they've spent years trying to do something and they failed at it, and that person has built that rock inside of them. And I know that they're not going to cut and run at the first sign of trouble. I know that they have that experience to draw on, which is invaluable in life. When you can draw, that's why I suggest everyone play a sport. I mean, it's just so important for you to play something and learn how to lose, right? And learn to deal with it.
It's more important than winning, really, at the end of the day. Yeah.
Winning was great. I loved winning, and I love getting trophies, and that was awesome. But if I look back at the greatest lessons that I've learned, every lesson or everything I can remember always hovered around some sort of loss or some sort of defeat that I suffered. I really can't remember. I remember the excitement of the win or the excitement of the trophy or the championship, but I don't remember what we did before that.
Yeah.
But I remember all the losses and all the times where I failed and all the times that it didn't happen and what I did to fix it, for sure.